All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, October 20th, 2016. And this is Before the First Cup with Jules here at UCY.TV. Happy Thursday, everyone. It is 56 degrees with heavy rain and fog and very cloudy here in upstate New York, according to the weather. So where did we leave off yesterday? There's a lot of stuff going on today. We titled the show Robot Cloud Learning, AI, and the Internet of Everything Control Matrix. And that's pretty much what it's come down to. They are now taking artificial intelligence that they want to imbue with reasoning capabilities. We found that out in a couple different cases. The military is working on teaching robots new skills, but not only are they teaching robots new skills, but they are allowing robots to learn from each other by taking their learning skills, uploading them to the cloud, and then distributing them across the robotic network. We've seen that there was some research going on at, I don't know if it was MIT, but it was in MIT Technology Review. But now Google has announced that they are also working on a project where they will allow AI to not only learn from other robots, that was experiment number one, but also learn from its own memory independently. I mean, we're talking about giving machines, whether it be a physical nuts and bolts machine or a machine that is written in code nuts and bolts and living in the cloud, we are giving them the ability to start doing things without our intervention. And that's called autonomy. You know, autonomous robots and killing machines have kind of been on the plate for a while. A lot of the tech billionaires have spoken out against it and said, my mic just went awry, and said what a bunch of lunacy it all is. But nobody's listening, and I'm going to tell you, I started digging into a DARPA scrape I got last night. They usually come at like 2 o'clock in the morning. They scrape the whole web and then bring you back all the DARPA news for the last 24 hours. And I ended up staying up for a good hour beyond what I had planned, just going through the links on my cell phone. And I have to tell you, I'm beyond horrified now. We are not just talking about machines. I've been telling you that they are working on enslaving all life. They are working on enslaving all life. And maybe we'll get there. I don't know, either today or tomorrow. We are going to get there. All right, so let's start here. And we're going to continue through the progression we were working on yesterday. So we had listened at the very end of the show to a clip from Charlie Rose that talked about artificial intelligence being a game changer and how it literally was going to change the way that we did everything. He exposed in this piece IBM's Watson and how Watson is now aiding, and I don't think they mentioned Sloan Kettering Institute, but I know that that was one of their first projects. Watson was working on cancer diagnoses, running through records of patients at Sloan Kettering Cancer Institute, coming up with other alternatives that maybe the doctors had missed for treatments based upon the input that Watson received. Well, you know, we've talked about robots taking all the jobs. And there was a committee started back in March at the White House to kind of prepare the world for this taking of all the jobs. Obama just the other day released his newest vision of the future called Preparing the Future of Artificial Intelligence. And this really is now going to set the blueprint for how they're going to roll this out in the future. We have Facebook, Microsoft, IBM, and Google all battling to be the top dogs in this future takeover of everything. So, they have to really set the stage and make you feel that it's in your best interest. Oh, dangling carrot, it's going to save you. It's going to make you live to be a ripe old age of 274. Those are those little nanobots in your blood, and they've been working on some stuff with that as well. But we're also going to have these wonderful artificial intelligences that are going to be able to do better than your oncology doctor, who is probably making $200,000 or $300,000 a year. And oops, hold on. I have to tell you that even though this can be beneficial, you have to realize that what is happening here is we are literally feeding the machine with knowledge. That machine, as we start building it to have independent learning capabilities, reasoning capabilities, is something that the military is working on. So we add all these capabilities. This machine is going to become not only smarter, but better without all of our human foibles than we are. That's when we're going to run into some trouble. And we're going to have people, I've been talking about white collar jobs, as in programmers, computer scientists, developers, that type of thing, good paying jobs, network engineers, the type of jobs that a lot of my friends have. They're all going to be out of jobs. But let's take it one step further. With Watson going into cancer treatment, like I said, you're going to have oncologists and who knows what next, nutritionists, as they add the little internet of everything components of little nanobot doctors in your blood. And I did post a couple stories in the notes of yesterday's show where they're talking about internet enabling them. Like I said, being able to send real-time statistics like a gauge on a car out of your body to tell real-time what's going on inside and whether or not you are operating within parameters. Guys, we are talking about a control grid that there's no escape from. We're talking about being consumed into this machine that will overtake us in every single way in the future. Even building these robots, and we're going to get back to the robots. So imagine a robot like Atlas, and we saw, Atlas was bumbling at first until all of a sudden, the big reveal for 2.0, and Atlas looked pretty damn scary. He's all stable and everything, not tripping and falling with goofy circus music anymore. He's marching through, pushing open doors, walking through uneven terrain in the woods, picking up and putting boxes on shelves. He gets knocked over and gets right back up over and over again. Add to that learning and reasoning capability and the ability to swarm, learn using cloud technology as they're surveilling the landscape with their little HD robot camera eyes, positioning all around them. They can have them set up everywhere. And they're going to be able to recognize, download, databases of facial recognition. It's beyond horrifying. This is beyond horrifying. So anyway, and that was just the robots in the woods. Anyway, what I'd like to kick off with today, we listened to the first minute and 23 seconds, I believe, of Charlie Rose. Positioning, how amazing this is going to be for our future. It's happening way, way, way faster than we ever imagined. Like I told you, don't believe the scientists that have been coming out saying, no, don't worry about it. It's 100 years from now, because it's not. This has all been going on in the background. It is the law of exponential returns. It is moving faster than anyone can imagine. And I'm going to tell you, even faster than I could have imagined, because some of this crazy stuff I was reading this morning just really put me in a position right now. I don't know where to even think or turn, because it's so off the rails. I'm going to make you hold that one with bated breath, because hopefully we'll get there by the end. All right, so anyway, let's listen to a few minutes of Charlie. I just want to point out like how far this has already come. And we are already talking about being better than very well-trained oncologists. Watson ended up finding solutions and potential future treatments that entire boardrooms full of cancer physicians missed. And it is a prime example in the fact that, it was on 60 Minutes and it was Charlie Rose that was giving this presentation. They're setting us up to open our arms. The robots, the AI will be way better than us. Good old Watson. Watson's here to save you. Watson's going to be powering your smart underwear at some point in the future as well. Look up Under Armour and IBM. But they are setting this into the collective consciousness that robots as our overlords, robots as the authority, robots as the smart one, as the oracle, who knows everything, who can process information way faster. You wait till you hear the surgeon. Way, way faster. And there's so much coming out all the time. Nobody can keep up with it. Well, that's true. Tell you, I'm very challenged, and I'm someone who has always had a great capacity for multitasking. I don't know if the computer age gave me a very productive form of adult ADD, or if I always had a very productive form of ADD, and that's why I loved computers so much, because I never got bored. Technology was always changing, and I'm talking the last 25 or 30 years. I've been riding this surfboard for a very long time. You could ask me anything about topics that I'm into, and I could spew for hours, as is obvious by my almost 400 shows here. But, the plain fact of the matter is, if you start looking into the psychology of the brain, when your brain gets flooded with information, when things get too hard and people get overwhelmed, what happens is people start tuning out. And with technology, unless you've been in technology for a very long time so you can understand this morphing that is happening right now, this merging of the machine and biology, unless you've been following some of the even crazier stuff that we looked at the very beginning that would convince you that some of the complete off the rails stuff we're talking about now is absolutely 100% true. Because if you haven't, it sounds like utter ridiculous fantasy. If you haven't been listening to this show for the last 4 years, you really wouldn't have the mental capacity to be able to absorb in one sitting the ramifications of what Charlie lays out in this expose. But this really is the cherry on the top. This really is, as Obama speaks at that event and lays out the entire blueprint now for the future of AI, preparing us for the future of AI, it's called. You wouldn't realize the significance of it all, but Charlie is going to usher in that new era and help you accept your new robot overlord, who, of course, is going to cure you. All right. I turned it up too high. Now I get an echo. But let's listen to a little bit more of this, and then we're going to kick off some of the rest of the stuff I have, if it works. Hold on.
The story will continue in a moment.
Uh-oh.
This is a supercomputer with what?
When you're close to the people you...
Oh, no! It's going to play me a commercial. Hold on. You got to love when that happens. It sat too long waiting for me since yesterday. Well, here, let's take a look here. Oh, it's working too hard. Well, it's all right. Hey, just on a side note, while this is ticking away, since we got 45 more seconds, they had that space landing yesterday on Mars. for the collaboration between the European Space Agency, the ESA, and Russia to land that probe on Mars. And apparently they lost contact with it, and now they're fearing that it may be dead. So not sure what's going on with that. I just saw that this morning. They fear that it had a fatal crash. All right, here we go. Charlie Rose on Watson.
Watson Intelligence. Right.
John Kelly is the head of research at IBM and the godfather of Watson. He took us inside Watson's brain.
Oh, here we are. Here we are.
You can feel the heat already.
You feel the heat, the 85,000 watts. You can hear the blowers cooling it. But this is the hardware that the brains Watson sat in.
5 years ago, IBM built this system made up of 90 servers and 15 terabytes of memory. Enough capacity to process all the books in the American Library of Congress. That was necessary because Watson is an avid reader, able to consume the equivalent of 1 million books per second.
Ding.
Today, Watson's hardware is much smaller, but it is just as smart.
Tell me about Watson's intelligence.
So it has no inherent intelligence as it starts. It's essentially a child. But as it's given data and given outcomes, it learns, which is dramatically different than all computing systems in the past, which really learned nothing. And as it interacts with humans, it gets even smarter, and it never forgets.
That helped Watson land a spot on one of the most challenging editions of the game show Jeopardy in 2011.
An IBM computer system able to rapidly understand and analyze natural language, Watson.
It took 5 years to teach Watson human language, so it would be ready to compete against two of the show's best champions.
So let's play.
Because Watson's AI is only as intelligent as the data it ingests, Kelly's team trained it on all of Wikipedia and thousands of newspapers and books. It worked by using machine learning algorithms to find patterns in that massive amount of data and formed its own observations. When asked a question, Watson considered all the information and came up with an educated guess.
Watson, what are you going to wager?
IBM gambled its reputation on Watson that night. It wasn't a sure bet.
I'll take a guess. What is Baghdad?
Even though you were only 32% sure of your response, you are correct.
The wager paid off.
Hello.
For the first time, a computer system proved it could actually master human language and win a game show. But that wasn't IBM's endgame.
Man, that's a big day, isn't it? The day that you realize that if we can do this,
That's right.
the future is ours.
That's right.
This is almost like you're watching something grow up. I mean, you've seen the birth, you've seen it pass the test. You're watching adolescence.
That's a great analogy. Actually, on that Jeopardy game 5 years ago, when we put that computer system on television, we let go of it. And I often feel as though I was putting my child on a school bus, and I would no longer have control over it.
Because it was reacting to something that it did not know what would it be.
It had no idea what questions it was going to get. It was totally self-contained. I couldn't touch it any longer, and it's learned ever since. So fast.
Now, are you listening to what this guy is saying? And he's the creator of Watson. I mean, he put it on a school bus that day, and he hasn't been able to touch it since. He let Watson go, and he's been learning, and he's doing it all on his own now.
Forward from that game show 5 years later, we're in cancer now.
You're in cancer. You've gone from game show to cancer in 5 years.
In 5 years.
5 years ago, Watson had just learned how to read and answer questions. Now it's gone through medical school. IBM has enlisted 20 top cancer institutes to tutor Watson in genomics and oncology.
Guys, I mean, this is 5 short years, he said. Watson just learned to read in 5 short years, and now he's working with 20 cancer hospitals, and they're teaching him all about oncology and genomics. That was in 5 short years. Just imagine if, any specialist who tells you that AI is not developing in any type of way that may be dangerous to us in the future. I mean, they're selling this with a positive spin, but just think of the capability that this entity is building. They said that he could read 1 million books in a second. I mean, we are literally puny, insignificant humans compared to something like that.
One of the places Watson is currently doing its residency is at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Dr. Ned Sharpless runs the Cancer Center here.
What did you know about artificial intelligence and Watson before IBM suggested it might make a contribution in medical care?
Not much, actually. I had watched it play Jeopardy.
Yes.
I knew about that. And I was very skeptical. I was like, oh, this is what we need, the Jeopardy playing computer. That's going to solve everything.
So what fed your skepticism?
Cancer's tough business. There's a lot of false prophets and false promises. So I'm skeptical of sort of almost any new idea in cancer. I just didn't really understand what it would do.
What Watson's AI technology could do is essentially what Dr. Sharpless and his team of experts do every week at this molecular tumor board meeting.
We need to figure this out.
They come up with possible treatment options for cancer patients who already fail standard therapies. They try to do that by sorting through all of the latest medical journals and trial data, but it is nearly impossible to keep up.
I don't think there's a trial open yet.
To be on top of everything that's out there, all the trials that are taking place around the world. It seems like an incredible task.
That's really
any one university and one facility to do.
Yeah, it's essentially undoable. And understand, we have sort of 8,000 new research papers published every day. You know, no one has time to read 8,000 papers a day. So we found that we were deciding on therapy based on information that was always, in some cases, 12, 24 months out of date.
However, it is a task that's elementary for Watson.
You know, they taught Watson to read medical literature, essentially, in about a week. It was not very hard. And then Watson read 25 million papers in about another week.
Wow.
And then it also scanned the web for clinical trials open at other centers. And all of a sudden, we had this complete list. That was sort of everything one needed to know.
Did this blow your mind?
Oh, it totally blew my mind.
We have the Watson recommendation for
Watson was proving itself to be a quick study, but Dr. Sharpless needed further validation. He wanted to see if Watson could find the same genetic mutations that his team identified when they made treatment recommendations for cancer patients.
We did an analysis of 1,000 patients where the humans meeting in the molecular tumor board had doing the best that they could do, had made recommendations. So not at all a hypothetical exercise. These are real-world patients where we really conveyed information that could guide care. In 99% of those cases, Watson found the same thing the humans recommended. So that was encouraging.
Did it encourage your confidence in Watson?
Yeah, it was nice to see that. Well, it was also encouraged my confidence in the humans. You know, yay. You know, but the probably more exciting part about it is in 30% of the patients, Watson found something new. And so that's 300 plus people where Watson identified a treatment that a well-meaning, hardworking group of physicians hadn't found.
Because
Ding! Well-meaning, hardworking group of physicians didn't find. You know, those physicians eventually are going to be out of jobs. Watson, with his capability of being able to scan millions of trials and research papers in just short of a week and come up with solutions that they couldn't humanly be capable of in that short amount of time, it is going to make even highly paid, highly experienced doctors obsolete.
The trial had opened 2 weeks earlier. A paper had come out in some journal no one had seen. You know, a new therapy had become approved.
30% though.
We were very that
30%.
Disconcerting because I thought it was going to be
disconcerting that the Watson found 30%.
Yeah. These were real, you know, things that by our own definition we would have considered actionable had we known about it at the time of the diagnosis.
Some cases, like the case of Pam Sharp, got a second look to see if something had been missed.
When did they tell you about the Watson trial?
He called me in January. He said that they had sent off my sequencing to be studied at IBM by Watson. I said, like
your
the
genomic sequence.
Your genomic sequencing.
Like the computer on Jeopardy.
Yes.
And he said, yeah.
And what'd you think of that?
I thought, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pam has metastatic bladder cancer and for 8 years has tried and failed several therapies. At 66 years old, She was running out of options.
And at this time for you, Watson was the best thing out there because you tried everything else.
I've been on standard chemo. I've been on a clinical trial, and the prescription chemo I'm on isn't working either.
One of the ways doctors can tell whether a drug is working is to analyze scans of cancer tumors. Watson had to learn to do that too. So IBM's John Kelly and his team taught the system how to see.
Now, this is an X-ray scan of a human.
It can help diagnose diseases and catch things that doctors might miss.
And
you know, and as now they're feeding all these tumor scans and body scans into Watson, he's able to come up with diagnoses. I mean, again, radiologists and all these different types of physicians that are out there, and they're so specialized. You know, I mean, you can't go see one doctor and get a solution to anything. You have to go see 12 doctors on referral to be able to then get some sort of solution that nobody's talking together or making any type of plans about. But hey, step in, Watson. I told you guys it's going to be nanorobot doctor. And there are a lot of companies that are working on these little DNA nanobots that not only can go in and determine whether or not there is an issue, but then provide some sort of cure, whether it be tamping down on your inflammation or creating on the fly some sort of medication inside of you, and then report those findings back via wireless technology to some sort of repository where then when they can monitor real time what your progress is. I mean, this is going to be like beyond Skynet. And Watson is just one in a myriad of projects that are out there like this happening right now. He happens to be the one that they are focusing on, and Watson has quite a head start over a lot of these other AIs. But I'm going to tell you, don't think that Google and Microsoft and Facebook and any of these other companies are too far behind.
What Watson has done here, it has looked over tens of thousands of images, and it knows what normal looks like, and it knows what normal isn't, and it has identified where in this image are there anomalies that could be significant problems.
Anomalous behavior, not only in tumors and in cells, but also remember, they're working on things that utilize AI and HD cameras and facial recognition and emotional recognition, some of your behavioral analytics, and they're going to be able to determine what is abnormal in your behavior, and not just the behavior of tumors or the behavior of blood cells, but in your personality in the future.
You know, you had the CT scans yesterday. There does appear to be progression of the cancer.
Pam Sharp's doctor, Billy Kim, arms himself with Watson's input to figure out her next steps.
And I can show you the interface for Watson.
Watson flagged a genetic mutation in Pam's tumor that her doctors initially overlooked. It enabled them to put a new treatment option on the table.
What would you say Watson has done for you?
It may have extended my life. And
Ding.
I don't know how much time I've got, so by using this Watson, it's maybe saved me some time that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Now, guys, I feel very bad for this woman because remember I told you that they do pray. First of all, to get this technology into us and to get us to accept it, they had to make it something that strikes close to home. They had to make it something that would pull on your heartstrings and really get you behind wanting to support having these super intelligent machines, whether they be external or internal. The next thing that I was certain they were going to target was the big C, and that was cancer. Now you see cancer cures, potential cancer cures with new technologies are everywhere. They're all over the TV, the commercials, new gene therapies, these little nano-robotic treatments, being able to go in and actually flip switches on and off inside of you, and utilizing a super artificial intelligence such as Watson to cure you. This poor woman actually died before this episode aired, this one that they were interviewing. But did you hear that heartfelt, very sad a testament that Watson helped give her time she didn't have. Watson helped her live a little bit longer. Watson was her savior that gave her just a little bit more to life. And they put this on mainstream television, 60 Minutes, spin it out because, desperate people who are at the end of the line, we have a cure for you. And the way that they played this really disturbed me. They pulled on everybody's heartstrings to say, step right up, because Watson and AI in general is the way of the future. It is going to help make humanity healthier and better, and don't worry about it. So right on the heels of this, I don't know, that 60 Minutes special was from, let's see what the date on this is, if they put that on there, October 9th. So it's just over 2 weeks ago. And then we have a story here. Let me kill Skype. I don't want any feedback here. All right. I hate when articles don't put a date on them. Oh, October 13th. So we are talking just a measly 4 days later. Story comes out, the White House. So don't tell me that these two things didn't have anything to do with each other. The White House lays out the groundwork for the future of artificial intelligence. Do. Yeah, just like that Watson thing you saw on TV last night. Ellie, look it. Now the White House, Obama is telling us how great it is. Quote, everyone has the opportunity to help in building an AI-enhanced society and to participate in its benefits, i.e., step right up and get sucked into the machine. Despite the fact that Obama is entering his final months in the White House, which, most presidents would just be lame ducks. Instead of going out of their way to pass every new edict that's going to take us down the future to hell, hey, why not? The president is making sure that mad science gone mad in technology, my emphasis added with mad science, will continue to be a priority. Over the last 8 years, Obama has been champion for the scientific community, especially when it comes to next generation technologies that address important social and public challenges, and artificial intelligence will play a major role in addressing these challenges. The setup is just disgusting. Yeah, he's been signing us off, selling humanity down the road to big pharma, mad science gone mad, DARPA sprinkle funding at all these universities and little scary labs down at the end of dark, bloody hallways. He sold us out. I'm sure he's going to benefit with some nice padded job after his presidency is over. And they've assured him that he and his family will, get the antidote to the out-of-control nano-robotic apocalypse coming in the future. The Obama administration's Preparing for the Future of Artificial Intelligence report sets out where AI is now, the questions it has raised, and its existing and potential applications. The report is intended to not only be a snapshot of the existing artificial intelligence technologies, but also is a regulatory roadmap for future administrations to follow, said the White House. No, since when does the president start writing regulatory roadmaps? Because I don't know if I've ever quite heard that. Especially when, what does he do? He plays basketball and he was a lawyer. What gives him any type of authority from a knowledge standpoint, from understanding all of the implications? What gives this Yahoo, came out of nowhere, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. What gives him the mental capacity to be able to write regulatory roadmaps for the future? When I saw that, I was like, and nobody's questioning this? Where's Elon Musk? Where are some of these people that have been warning against the dangers, saying, well, this guy really doesn't know what he's talking about. He's kind of putting a pretty picture and a smiley face on it, opening the door for future funding. But where is Obama qualified to write a regulatory roadmap for the future of AI? Quote, advances in AI technology, and he isn't, by the way. And the fact that nobody stood up that I've seen yet and said, like, what? Anyone that's in this industry standing up saying, what? And they're just letting this go and smiling because now they just got a big boost. Tells me that we're doomed, people. They're all in the bag. There is nobody who is an independent entity right now that is standing up saying, back up the truck, Chuck, or put on the brakes for this. There's nobody. They're selling us. They are selling humanity. Quote, advances in AI technology hold incredible potential to help America stay on the cutting edge of innovation. And isn't that what it's all about? He said the same things about precision medicine. They are making us the 21st century product to be experimented upon as our future economic engine. Already, AI technologies have opened up new markets and new opportunities for progress in critical areas such as what? Oh, healthcare, like we just heard, IBM Watson, education, energy, and environment. And in recent years, machines have surpassed humans in the performance of certain tasks, ding, such as some aspects of image recognition. And soon to be, we already saw self-learning, cloud learning, self-reasoning, self-evolving even robots to run factories that don't need sick time, that don't need vacation time, that don't need to only work 8 hours or 8 hours between shifts, that don't need to get paid overtime or a pension. Nope. $13,000 and you can get yourself a Baxter and hook him up to the cloud and he will have the knowledge of 1 million Baxters. I mean, this is heading for a cliff. And the White House also acknowledges that it's going to put a lot of people out of work. Well, don't worry about it. Because we'll have universal basic income and you guys can just all sit around and have nothing to do all day. The White House report does not believe that machines will demonstrate broadly applicable intelligence capable of exceeding humans in the next 20 years, and the report set out a framework to cover most eventualities. Now, again, don't worry about it. The White House says at least 20 years. Well, the fact that you're spending bazillions of dollars on creating autonomous reasoning systems and AI autopilots and co-pilots for DARPA planes and all kinds of military technologies, UAV satellites that can do all kinds of things on its own and learn on its own without any type of human intervention, tells me that, again, this 20 years is a bunch of bullshit. If we had Watson going from learning to read to reading 1 million books a second, are you going to tell me it's going to take 20 years for them to become smarter than humans? He did in 5. So this is absolute utter bullshit. They keep saying that. Don't panic, people. At least 20 years. You'll probably be dead by then. But it's not. It's not 20 years. Trust me. Just trust me on this one. This report, written by Obama, focuses on a number of policy opportunities that artificial intelligence has raised, including but not limited to transportation, healthcare, jobs, security, and this whole new STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. And with this in mind, the authors of the report provide 23 recommendations for the government and, quote unquote, in my favorite little term here, other actors that could affect AI technologies both now and in the future. From May to July of 2016, the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, more affectionately known as the OSTP, held several public outreach workshops across the country. And this is what I was talking about. This is the workshops where the White House has been warning that the robots are going to take all the jobs. And around 2,000 people attended the workshops in person, which also streamed online. So, guys, 2,000 people in all of the U.S. of A. totally got why what the White House was doing was important. They were announcing that, yes, there will be mass unemployment here in the future, but don't worry, because it'll open up all these new opportunities for people who potentially might want to go get re-educated, who aren't too old, who won't be excluded from these new technologies and to go find a new job. But otherwise, for all you people who become obsolete, we'll just give you a paycheck and you can get Obamacare and we'll use you as our guinea pig. The subjects that they talked about fell into a series of broad categories, which included applications of AI for the public good. Oh, yes. Not for the public evil. AI and regulation, research and workforce, the economic impacts of AI, ding, fairness and safety governance, global considerations and security, as well as preparing for the future. The full report goes into significant detail of specific AI use cases, further actions and recommendations. And although the government intervention is not always welcome by the tech industry, no. And you know what, though? That's why the federal government pulled the tech industry right into their envelope. We've seen that they are all but patting and rubbing now since last summer. He pulled them all in, and they had a big meeting. They were all crying about NSA demanding records and stuff, and Obama said, shh, we'll give you guys a CYA moment so you don't have to even let on to your shareholders that you've been helping us all along. No, we'll let you guys stand up and say, no, you don't agree with government surveillance or colluding with governments at all. But on the backside, you're just going to give us that little backdoor key. Don't worry about it. If anybody comes back to you, we'll make sure that it wasn't your fault. It was our fault. But in exchange, we're going to give you guys the keys to having free R&D line item budgets and all of the population to experiment upon. We will let you become the ruling class. Tech billionaires, mad science gone mad. We can computerize everything, including little cells to cure cancer, Microsoft, to put inside of humans. Just work with us, people. It's all in the name of security. It's all in the name of keeping you safe or healing you from all these horrible dangers that exist here. And they did it. They flipped it. That I told you back for the last 30 years, the tech industry has not been for government at all. They were the front line cowboys that didn't play by the rules. It was the Wild West, and we set the rules. It was democratized across all those smart people who didn't have classes back in those days. They didn't have computer science degrees. It was all about innovation, being able to push buttons and plug in a new chip and see what happens, overclock the shit out of your processor and go, whoa, look at this, it works, and then write a blog post or go into a news group back in those days, actually, to be able to share your information. That's how it all worked. Now, it's all about securing this information. Remember, all these technologies have been deemed WMDs, and all now are required to be part of this government matrix of control. Anyway, let's finish this story because I want to move on. Artificial intelligence already provides regulatory challenges for government. For example, we talked about this, automated and self-driving vehicles are already on some U.S. roads, but the Department of Transportation recently published its federal automated vehicle policy, which combines a proactive safety approach with continual innovation. This report recommended that federal and state agencies should get advice from experts with, quote, knowledge of AI, unquote. So two things, yeah, like Obama writing his future regulatory policy for AI when he doesn't have, quote, unquote, knowledge of AI. But secondly, to recommend that they get advice from experts with, quote, unquote, knowledge in AI was the fishing hook to pull these quote-unquote experts from the technology field into the regulatory bodies of the federal government to help them make these decisions. This knowledge was not limited to autonomous vehicles either, but also included drones and unmanned aerial aircraft systems. And yeah, I mean, it's coming, people. It is coming so fast and furious right now that we're not going to know what hit us when it gets here. Artificial intelligence has been an ongoing priority for companies such as Google and Microsoft, so it could be argued that research and development is well underway, and I would be on that side of the argument. But one recommendation the report made was that the government be notified of any significant AI milestones. In other words, industry leaders should update the government as often as possible, right? So they can decide whether or not they want to take that technology and use it for their own purposes. The report said that the government had demonstrated its commitment to artificial intelligence research through unclassified funding and, yeah, sprinkle money from DARPA everywhere. And I'll tell you, two of the big places where they are working on AI with lots of DARPA funding are Carnegie Mellon, and they were the ones that actually just won that Grand Cyber Challenge where they created the autonomous Internet of Everything software program to be able to go detect and fix on the fly without human intervention any type of security hole, whether it be hackers getting in or catching a virus from somewhere through some open port that shouldn't be open, some new vulnerability that was just identified. And this is a first, but you know, this autonomy is being spread out everywhere, cyberspace, for security platforms, but also in drones and robots and in these little nanobody things that they've been working on, and all of them tie back to the tech industry. 2016, the total amount of government funding for AI is expected to reach $1.2 billion, which is an increase of $100 million just in the last 12 months. And in the coming years, AI will continue to contribute to the economic growth. Well, phew, but it's going to take all the jobs and will be a valuable tool for improving the world in fields as diverse as healthcare, transportation, environment. Yes, environment. Remember, they're going to mess around with synthetic biology to fix things on Earth before they go to Mars to terraform, as well as criminal justice. And we already saw, I don't remember the name, but they keep anthropomorphizing all of these different AIs. But there's some new AI that just got hired by his first law firm. And I think he was doing pretty well. As well as economic inclusion, says the OSTP's Deputy U.S. Chief Technology Officer, Ed Felton, in a White House blog post. The administration believes that it is critical that industry, civil society, which is you and me, and governments work together to develop a positive aspect of technology, to manage its risks and its challenges, and to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to help in building an AI-enhanced society. Ding, 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 ding. And participate in its benefits. Frightening. So we've just been sold. We've been sold again. We've been sold a lot of different times. You know, I wanted to point out, too, a lot of these robots that they are working on, there's all kinds of different components, whether it be on deep learning and neural nets, hive swarm learning, cloud learning, or if we're just looking at the pneumatics and actuators that are in the actual robot, something like Atlas, that allows it to be resilient. Remember, they want to put a robot in every pot at some point, just like they did in that iRobot movie where you had helper robots at home. That's what they want to do. I mean, they're pushing in Japan. Japan has a really aging population right now, and they are pushing this for helper robots for the elderly around the house, helping them in the hospital, turning them over so they don't get bed sores. But I also just saw how strange that they just created these new robot babies because the reproduction rate is so low. For people who are having, like, I don't know, mothering pangs or something, maybe grandmothering pangs, because they never had kids, and now they don't have grandkids, and now they're sitting there all lonely with nobody to take care of them except a robot. Well, they got a baby robot for you now. Might help you feel better. Well, check this one out. You know, a lot of what they've been doing in robotics, and I've been following robotics back from the first days of MIT, where they built the bipedal, 2 legs like an ostrich running around in a circle robot, and that Kismet. And Kismet was the first robot that actually had facial expressions. And I mean, that was way, way back. I used to subscribe to Scientific American back in the late 80s, early 90s, and they were talking about all that as well as nano tech. I remember the cover was probably like 89, 90, maybe 91, with a close-up electron microscope photograph of a nanorobot with a little gear on it. And I remember even back then I was like, what? Science fiction? Well, it's not science fiction anymore, but one of the things we've been finding out is that the most successful mad science technologies across the gamut that they've been able, us puny humans, have been able to reproduce in the lab and then turn into something more, all happen to mimic nature. They discovered a long time ago, after trying all kinds of different designs for stability and that mimicking different designs that evolution have created in nature was their best tool for making something that would be successful. Well, listen to this one. This robot on IEEE Spectrum, again, October 13th, the same day as that AI article. A few days just after Charlie Rose came out talking about Watson, and we didn't even get to Sophia yet. We've looked at Sophia before. Sophia has some new things to say. Maybe we'll hit Sophia tomorrow morning. But this new robot can do more push-ups because what? Oh, they made a robot that sweats. And you think, a robot that sweats? That would short-circuit things out. Well, that's what I thought. But let's listen to this for a second. When we use our muscles, they produce heat as a byproduct. And when we use them a lot, we need to actively cool them, which is why we sweat. Well, by sweating, we pump water out of our bodies, and as that water evaporates, it cools us down. Robots, especially dynamic robots like humanoids, that place near constant high torque demands on their motors, generate enough heat that it becomes a major constraint on their performance. One of the reasons that a robot named Shaft did so well at the DARPA Robotic Challenge trials, for example, was that their fancy liquid-cooled motors could put out lots of torque over an extended period of time without overheating. Well, engineers solved this heat-generating problem in most mechanical systems by fans and heat sinks and radiators, just like we do in a computer, which means that you've got all this dedicated cooling infrastructure that takes up space and adds mass. And if anyone ever bought one of those big-ass video cards, you know that those big-ass video cards have 2 and 3 fans on them. And when you fire up your gaming machine, that thing sounds like an airplane ready to take off. Well, at the IEEE RSJ International Conference on Intelligent Robots and Systems this past week, Japanese researchers presented a novel idea of how to cool humanoid robots in a much more efficient way. Design them to be able to sweat water right out of their bones. The researchers from the University of Tokyo's JSK lab, led by Professor Mazuyuki Inaba, were trying to figure out how to add a cooling system to their 1.7 meter tall, 56 kilogram musculoskeletal humanoid named Kengoro, and you can look him up, Kengoro, who also joins Kijoro and Kenshiro as a part of their robot family. Kengoro is already stuffed to the brim with structural components. And guys, I'm going to put this link in the notes, but you should see him. He's got bones and muscles, and I mean, it looks very humanoid. It's pretty frightening. Kengoro is already stuffed to the brim with structural components, circuit boards, gears, and 108 motors. and there just was simply no room to add active water cooling with tubes, radiators, and fans. So researchers started looking at how they could make use of Kangoro's existing components, and they came up with the idea to use the robot's skeletal infrastructure as a coolant delivery system. And now Kangoro can run for a half a day on about a cup of deionized water. Although, just like you, he has to keep himself hydrated for the cooling to be effective, especially if he is working hard. Testing shows this method of cooling works 3 times better than air cooling and significantly better than just circulating water through an interior channel, although it is not effective as a traditional radiator using active cooling. In practice, this means that Kangoro can run at full power for much longer and lets him do push-ups for 11 minutes straight without burning out his motors. Well, there we go, guys. I don't know too many people that can do 11 straight minutes of push-ups. And I bet you Kangoro could probably do them one-handed as well. All right, guys. Well, make sure you stick around because I think tomorrow we're going to kick it off. Experts predict that by 2040, more crime will be committed by machines than by humans. And as the technology of the Internet of Things integrates into our daily lives more and more, the widespread use of artificial intelligence could bring with it more AI-powered crime. Yeah, it's funny, but it's not funny. All right, guys, well, make sure you stick around because Mr. Kevin Blanche is live up next, and tonight is Thursday, so there is all kinds of live radio. We have at 7 p.m. Rock the Boat with Ron Stevens, 8 p.m. this week's Behind the Woodshed with Hal Anthony, and at 10 p.m. Eastern, the Anti-Media Radio with SM Gibson, and I can't wait to get a take from SM and his crew on that debate last night. I think Hillary Clinton had her ass handed to her personally, but if you read any of the news this morning, you would think otherwise. All right, guys, make sure you stick around. Have an awesome Thursday, and I will catch up with you tomorrow. Everybody take care.
Listening to